All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ray Pendyke. I'm a senior engineering manager with Salesforce in our technology and products group. And what we're going to show today is something on how we manage our agile development within Salesforce, using Salesforce. And I'm also joined by two of my engineers, Alex Baden and James Hatton, who'll be doing a demo here shortly. Before we get started, I just want to take a quick poll just to see what group of people we have here today. How many are software engineers, quality engineers, QA? Okay. How many are in like a project management role or business analysts? Okay. How many here are working with some form of agile development methodology? Scrum, Kanban? Okay. Very good. That helps. So today, like I said, we're going to show you how we manage our agile development using Salesforce. Just the standard safe harbor statement I'm sure you've seen a number of times already this week. Basically, don't make any purchase decisions on any forward-looking comments we make today. So at Salesforce, we use Salesforce to, of course, sell Salesforce. We also use it to service Salesforce, as well as to build Salesforce. How do we build Salesforce with Salesforce? With our agile development methodology, we have created tools for managing all of our agile development. So we have our own orgs. We're managing our backlogs, our sprints, Kanban boards, and we built tools on the platform using Salesforce. Just a little bit of history. Salesforce now, we just celebrated 10 years of using Agile, the Agile methodology, and we had a number of tools that we had built on the platform. We had developers had built an org for tracking bugs. We called it Bug Force. Project managers had something called Scrum Force that they're using to track all the feature development. And then our testing teams had something called QA Force for managing their thousands of test cases. Worked really good for a while, but we knew there had to be a better way. And so we wanted to merge those three systems together into one, something we called GUS, the Grand Unification System. And we've been using that for about the past 8 years. We've had a number of customers ask us, hey, how do you manage your application lifecycle management? And they've heard stories about what we use, and they said, hey, can you make this available to customers? So I'd say about a year and a half ago, we introduced a product on the AppExchange called Agile Accelerator. GUS did make sense, so we came up with this name. And we made it available on the AppExchange so that you too can have the same tools that we use internally for managing our agile development for free on the AppExchange. You just need a Force.com license, and you can have the exact same tools that we're using. So with it, you can do things like, collaborate on work. Work is like user stories, bugs. We've got chatter built in, so if you're having conversations about a bug or a user story, you can just have the conversation right there on the user story in the chatter feed. Get it out of email, so forth. Really powerful. You have the ability to manage your backlog. We have a feature called the Work Manager. It's actually coming soon that we'll be putting on the AppExchange package, where you can manage your entire backlog from within the Work Manager. And very powerful. So you can prioritize work, manage your sprints, and so forth. If you're doing Scrum, we have something called the Virtual Sprint Wall or Sprint Wall. It's basically electronic form of your whiteboard. So instead of having Post-it notes or 3x5 cards on a whiteboard, you can actually manage those right here on the sprint wall. And you can actually create your stories, your bugs, drag and drop tasks, track the status, change the status, and so forth. And then if you're not using Scrum, maybe you're using Kanban, we have a fully functional Kanban board. Same thing, you can set up your columns, your swim lanes, drag and drop stories, change the status, and so forth. And James will be showing that here in just a second. So with that, I would like to turn over to James Hatton, our senior engineer on the team, and he's going to demo some of the tools for you.
Thank you, Ray. So one question I wanted to ask the audience, how many of you already use Agile Accelerator? So maybe about 10% of you, so most of you are seeing it for the first time. Like Ray said, it's included with any paid Force.com license, so you can go ahead. Salesforce.com/agile would take you straight there. If you're an admin, you can install it in a sandbox. If you're not an administrator, then you can spin up a free developer edition org, and you can install it in there. So when you think about any project management tools, How many of you right now are using Jira to track your bug backlog? The enemy. So most teams, including Agile Accelerator, including Jira, are going to start with the concept of a team. And Agile Accelerator is no different. We track the usual things, such as the team name, its story point scale. We track the team members that are on the team. And everything here is configured for software engineering. But a lot of our customers, almost 2/3 that have installed the package, is probably not tracking software. So these pick lists right now are design, software engineer, software manager, QA, things like that. But they can be customized for any role within your organization. The other thing that's worth noticing is the concept of product tags. Every time you create a bug or a user story, there are record types on an object we called work. And it used to be that you would have a huge pick list of product areas, what Ray was describing in the early version, and you would just have to pick which version you wanted, and it just became too hard to choose, and then the work wouldn't be assigned to the right people, they wouldn't be notified, and nobody would take action on a bug or know that they had a user story to work on. So the concept of a product tag is to automatically assign the correct team and then apply an assignment rule so that the assignee, the QA engineer, performance engineer, roles like that are automatically assigned the work record. And once you have a team and you have a backlog, you can then manage it on a number of views. Kanban is one of our most popular views, followed closely by sprints for teams who are following more of a Scrum approach. In this example, I'm on the Delphi team, so I've opened up their Kanban board. And you can see there's a number of columns that match the status pick list for those that already use Agile Accelerator. But these can also be customized. So if this doesn't match your team workflow, you can change this so that it matches what your workflow is. If anybody here isn't using Jira and is just using like more of a old-fashioned or traditional Agile of Post-it notes or a whiteboard, then you can see this is very similar to that you have cards, and then I can drag them from one column to another and visualize progress. And when you have your daily stand-up, you can then pull up the Kanban board, and you can edit these records and see what everybody is working on. You can also filter the Kanban board very easily. So over here, I can say, just show me the bugs, or just show me the user stories, show me things assigned to a certain scheduled build. It's a client-side filter, operates very fast, and it helps you get through your stand-ups that much quicker. But if I don't like these columns and I want to configure them, I can click this settings cogs in the top right-hand corner, and then I pull up the board here. And in this case, let's say I'm a UI developer, and I want to be able to show when I make progress on my things. So I may have the user interface ready. I've done my design, my mock-ups, the CSS. It's not quite ready to go to QA, but I want to be able to show my Scrum Master that I'm making progress, and I want to be able to put that on the board. So here I can create a sibling for this, and I can have a new column called UI in progress. And you notice as I type, the board is automatically updating. So you get that visualization, and you can see what the board is going to look like when you're finished. Now we have something called the status mapping here. So it's all very well and good to let a team customize their board, but if everybody had custom statuses, then release managers, vice presidents of your organizations would never be able to run a report because they wouldn't know what to put in their filter criteria. So we have the concept of a global set of statuses that are just more broader categories to make sense. So a release manager, a QA manager could say, hey, show me all of the P2 bugs that are still in progress. Show me all of the security user stories that we have planned for next release. So when I'm creating this custom column, I can choose to map that to one of the global status mappings, and that helps keep the two in sync so that the team gets to just update their board, and they don't have to worry about keeping two separate fields. So I've created one called UI in progress, and I want another one called UI complete. So as you can imagine, this entire board can be customized, and then when I close the settings dialog, it automatically updates, and I can start dragging work there. And I didn't have to go off to a separate setting page. It wasn't something in the setup. I didn't deploy metadata. The team can customize it right here on the page, and that helps them get a sense of ownership. You can also customize what is shown on this card here. So if I go back into the settings and I go cards, you can see I can start changing some of these, make it a little bigger. I can change what is shown on the card and that helps personalize it some more. And the reason I'm labeling how much customization it is because everything you see here is a managed package. So that means you can create your own custom objects, you can relate to our custom objects, but you can't change the look and feel of this Kanban board. We try to build like a best-in-class solution, and that way you don't need to customize it other than the settings dialog that we already give you, and that also allows us to release updates, bug fixes, things like that. Unlike an unmanaged package, many of you said you're developers, so an unmanaged package, you can customize it a lot, but then we could never give you the new features as Salesforce continues to iterate and improve these tools. So if you're not using the Kanban board, another thing that people like to use is sprints. If you're moving to Agile for the first time, sprints is a little bit more regimented, a little bit more structure, and teams do well for both. Now, a team in Agile Accelerator can use sprints or Kanban. They could even use both at the same time. There's nothing set in where like you choose one and then you're locked into that. You can move back and forth between the two. So in this case, I'm also on multiple teams. So it's showing me the Gus team sprint, and we're using some of the new Winter 17 features. You can see you have these smart navigation, and I can automatically pull up my other team's sprint. When you're on multiple teams, we ask what allocation you are. So if you're an architect, you might be on multiple teams. You're a Scrum Master, you could be on multiple teams, and what percentage you're on dictates how many hours you're going to have to spend on that tasks. At Salesforce, when this tool first started, people would say, okay, I've got 8, 9, 10 hours a day to work on something, and they'd add that many tasks. You can see the tasks here, you can start entering tasks, and you put in new releases. And what we found was there's a certain amount of everybody's day that just gets taken up on certain administration. Meetings, Salesforce has a lot of meetings, something I hate. How many people here likes having meetings? 0 hands. Oh, except for Chad, the one who schedules the meetings on our team. But it happens, it's a necessary evil, and that way we can actually set the hours in a workday. Most teams will use 6 hours a day. Even though they're in the office and working that much longer, that's how many hours you have to actually get heads down work done. And we track that, so you know at the team level how many hours you have, and that allows us to start building some nice charts to warn you like how many hours you have available. And I can start to show that, and also show things like team velocity, how many people are over-allocated, how many people have perhaps said, hey, I'm on these 2 teams, I'm going to work on both of these tasks, but unless you're going to work 24 hours a day, there's not enough hours. Company holidays is another thing we take into account. You can customize your company holidays, and then the team can help show perhaps where you've been too optimistic. When I'm creating tasks, we try to make it as frictionless data entry as possible. Nobody likes doing data entry. Nobody likes TPS report type things. So let's see. Create a new login screen, say, for the new Delphi release. I hit tab, automatically go, just choose the hours. So just 2 fields. Even the grumpiest developer can't really complain about that. It's very easy to enter the data. And then it does allow you to start to predict who's over-allocated, which kind of developers think like a superstar, think they can get everything done. Or when you story point something, you say, hey, it's about 3 points, and then you put all of the hours in, and you go, hey, well, looks like it's about 75 hours worth of total work, so it's probably more than 3 points. And that's why, while sprints have a little bit more overhead than the Kanban view, they're perhaps a little more structured for the teams that need it, for the teams who are missing their goals. You can also, on both of these views, something I wanted to show on the Kanban board, you can automatically create work records right from the board. So you see this new button here? A lot of times, and Salesforce is definitely as guilty of this as any other apps, how many people start using Salesforce and they start off with like 1 or 2 tabs, and then by lunchtime, they've got like 30 tabs. It's like tab bankruptcy, right? And you end up just force quitting the browser. You're just like, what was it doing? Because you always think you're going back to that tab. So as much as possible, we want to keep you on a single page, stop you having too many tabs, stop you just constantly popping up new work windows, and keep you focused at the task at hand. So in this case, let's say I'm creating a new user story, and we say, we want a new version of our product for the iPad Pro. Last year, Apple brings out a new iPad, and we want it to look good on the iPad Pro. None of these fields are particularly different to other project management tools you might have used, except for the product tag. So, as I mentioned before, the assignee QA engineer is all blank. Before we had assignment rules, you would just have to know who was work on stuff. So you'd be like, oh, who's the iPad developer? Oh, Alex is good at working on iPad development, so I'll assign it to him. But as you get to a large company, and how many people here have more than 100 employees at their company? So probably most of you, yeah. As you get above that size and you get into the thousands, you can't just remember who's good at what, and you want the system to be able to assign that for you. So as I start typing, it automatically provides suggestions for me. I can type the team name, the product tag name. If you have different marketing names for things, for example, whenever we create something at Salesforce, it always gets rebranded about 3 times before it gets released. So throughout the organization, everybody knows different names of what they're going to call something. And you can see it automatically assigned that to the right person to create that work record. And now I'm going to choose the UI in progress column, and it's going to save that and put it in the UI in progress. The other thing that's kind of cool about the Kanban board is the concept of creating a swim lane. This is like the perfect scenario. If all I did was work on new features and execute on my backlog, this is what my workflow would look like. But what we quickly came to realize is we need a separate swim lane. And that's for all the other crap you have to do. Every single day you come to work, somebody asks you to do something else. It wasn't on your plan, nobody talked about it, but there's certain housekeeping, certain things that just have to get done. Could be a bug fix, can you help me how to do this? It's part of being a team player. And that's why if you don't track those things, you show up at your stand-up and sometimes you're kind of like, well, what? You haven't moved anything on the board. What the hell have you done all day? And if you have that kind of like, maybe you've got a new manager, maybe you've got someone who's been a bit of a micromanager, you're like, okay, I need to provide some visibility. You can add a housekeeping lane, and it can actually see where those hours are being spent, and then maybe help and block the team as well if you're spending, a disproportionate amount of your day on housekeeping type issues. So I create the housekeeping lane, and I can now create childs within here. So I could just be like, to do. And the work in progress limit is important because there's only so many things that can be considered a priority. You can't have like 10 things. You can have a swim lane here called emergencies. And then you should only ever be able to have, let's say you've got a team of 5, you should never have more than 5 emergencies at once. If really it's more like 2 developers, 2 testers, and a Scrum Master, then it's only 2 emergencies at once. And you can't have a product owner throwing in 12 things and saying they're all priority 1. And the work in progress limit helps hold them accountable to that. If somebody sends you an email, there's no limit on the amount of emails they can send, but a work in progress limit limits how much they can put in that lane. So I can put like to do, add a work in progress limit, say of 3 items. And then done. And no work in progress limit for that, because that automatically makes sense. And now you can see I've already got my swim lane down here. I can start dragging work records into it. And I haven't changed anything else in the organization. If Salesforce makes it really easy to change page layouts, but you start changing a page layout, and everyone's like, what the hell? Who changed the screen? Oh, it's my profile. Why did it affect 150 people in the team? This is just for your team. No one can complain. You customize your board, and you can customize it to your heart's content. Now, the tools I've shown you right now already exist in Agile Accelerator. If you've used it before, then you're probably, you're like, what's new? Hey, this looks exactly the same as what I've already got. And they work good when you're working with dozens of work records. But one of the feature gaps we found was, well, what about when you have hundreds of work records? When you work at a large company, your backlog is not like a simple, 10, 20 things I've got to get done. It's hundreds, potentially thousands of things. And to solve that, we created a tool called the Work Manager. And I'm going to invite Alex up to the podium here, and he's going to show you our brand new Work Manager.
All right. Thank you, James. All right. So as James said, my name's Alex. I'm a UI developer here at Salesforce. And some of the tools that we've kind of looked at already, they're really good when you kind of have like a finite amount of work and you're moving things around. But what happens once you have 200, 400, 800 items, and there's so much going on, you're trying to manage it all. It can be a little frustrating. So we developed the Work Manager in order to kind of bring some calm to the chaos. So to kind of describe the Work Manager, I'm going to come at it from two different perspectives. So one is going to be from the perspective of the individual user, so someone who's on the team and whose work is being assigned to them. And then I'm going to come at it from the perspective of the Scrum Master. So let's start with an individual user. So you can see I'm currently sorted by assignee. So these are all the different work records, user stories, bugs, and I can see my name here, and I can see everything that is assigned to me. I see James down here. James and I offline, we've discussed me taking on the improving the login screen on mobile story. So we've discussed that offline. I'm going to go ahead and take this, and I'm going to just drag it up into underneath my name, and you can see that's now been reassigned. Just going to go ahead and click Save. You can see in the background that's saved. And now this is assigned to me. So it's really quick to kind of reassign work. Now I'm going to go ahead and I've actually decided I'm going to begin working on the login screen for mobile. So I'm just going to check off that row. I'm going to open up the Mass Edit side panel. So in this case, we're just editing one single record, but the Mass Edit side panel is called the Mass Edit side panel because you can actually edit many records at once. And I'm going to show you that in just a moment here. But for now, I just want to switch the status of this story to in progress. So you can see that's now updated. I'm going to go ahead and save. It's quick. We have a little optimistic update in here. And so now, in just a few seconds, I've changed the assignee and I've updated the status, all in kind of a nice modern user interface. So now, this is so I knew that I wanted to look for that particular record from James. So I went under James as an assignee. But I saw just a few minutes ago, James was creating a story that had something to do with an iPad Pro. And I don't remember exactly where that was, so I'm just going to go into the quick search, and I'm just going to type iPad, and there we go. I can see we have a couple different stories that are related to the iPad Pro. So it's pretty quick and easy to just kind of search using this quick search, all on the client side. So now, let's say as a user, I just want to know how many total bugs do I have that are assigned to me. So we've got a filter panel. So I'm just going to go down to the assignee section. I'm going to check off my name. And then I'm going to go to the top and just say, OK, only show me bugs. So now these are only bugs that are specifically assigned to me. And if I can update what we're sorting by. And no matter where I am, this is giving me a pretty good sense for exactly what's assigned to me. And then if I want to, let's say, add user stories, I can do that too. So you can get pretty granular into how you filter by sprint, filter by user, anything like that. So for now, we'll go ahead and we'll clear these filters so we're showing everything. So now we'll take a step back and we'll take kind of a higher level approach, and we'll think about this with our Scrum Master hat on, right? So as a Scrum Master, what is, my goal is to make sure that we're having efficient and effective sprints, and I want to be using a tool that's empowering that. So we've really taken that to heart. So as a Scrum Master, if I'm planning out a sprint with my team, I want to have a good sense for how much I can kind of expect us to accomplish, in any given sprint. So we've built in a velocity line. So you can see here, this is actually going back. This is saying your team averaged 6 story points from the last 5 sprints. So this is going back the last 5 sprints and giving us an average of how many story points we can expect to complete based on our historical performance. So I'm going to turn this velocity line on, and then I can use the slider to go back in time and and go back over different periods of time and see how many story points we can expect to average. If I want to overwrite that, I can also do that too. So let's override that. Let's say I'm a little optimistic and maybe we've added a new person to the team. So I'm going to say we're going to show the velocity line after 5 story points. So we'll go ahead and save this. And now you can see that yellow or orange bar across the screen is the velocity line. And as you can see the points here. So there are 5 points within that sprint. And as we scroll down, we can see that we're getting different velocity lines based on the story points that have been applied to the different stories. So as a Scrum Master, now I'm pretty confident that based on the tool, that we can get done everything that's above the velocity line. So I'm just going to check off the row at the bottom. I'm going to hit Shift and check off the row at the top. And I'm going to go back to our Mass Edit side panel, which I told you we would get back to. And we're going to update this, and we're going to put this all in the current sprint. And we're going to save that. You can see that it's saving. So it's pretty easy as a Scrum Master to manage my sprints and make sure that we have the right amount of work over the correct amount of time. So as a Scrum Master, I also, during a sprint, I might be curious as to how my team is actually performing. So this tool is giving me suggestions and inferences, and we're making decisions. But at any point in time, I want to have an idea for how this is going. So we've got charts, and I'll go back to one in the past. So this was back in the second part of August, but we can see our sprint burn down chart. So the orange line represents what we would expect, how we would kind of expect the average line to look, and we would expect that we would finish 13 story points over that period of time. And the blue line is what stories have actually been closed on which days, so we can see how we're tracking at any point during the sprint. From the work manager, we also, another thing as a Scrum Master I want to have is I don't want to have too much data. I want to have only the amount of data on the screen at one time that I need to actually be effective and do my job to the best of my ability. So if any of this, if there's too much information or anything's overwhelming, we can very easily just take off columns. So I want to maybe take off the modified date. Let's say I wanted to take off the sprint for some reason, feeling crazy. So now you see that the sprint's gone and the modified date is gone. So this is really allowing you to see only the data you need to see to make the right decisions. From here, you can also create new work, as James showed you before. So this is a very similar dialogue. You name the piece of work, you identify it as a user story or bug, and add the product tag and all of that, and then it'll appear on here right away. And that's pretty much all I've got to show for the work manager. So as James mentioned, it's coming soon in Agile Accelerator. So I'll go ahead and turn this back over to Ray, who'll finish us off.
All right, thanks, Alex. Big hand for Alex and James. All right, so we have just a little over a minute here left to go. So this is, as we said, it is available for free on the AppExchange. It's actually a Salesforce lab, so you can go ahead and feel free to download it if you have a Force.com license. One thing I want to call out was we have a success community called Agile Accelerator, so you can go to that address there, and we have a chatter group. If you want to post questions there, any comments, welcome those from you folks. And again, Agile Accelerator package on the AppExchange. Because we're out of time, if you guys have any questions, you want to talk to the team, we'll have other members of the team here. We'll probably go off to the side, and we can answer any questions. We've also got some information cards. Feel free, you can have one of these. And with that, I want to thank you for coming out, and you guys have a good rest of your Dreamforce. Thank you.